On a dusty road outside the base, he stopped a woman with a broken watch and an empty wallet. She smiled, then showed a truth that could sink ships. She wasn't lost. She was the Admiral. He saw her before the gate saw him. Plain blouse, faded jeans, hair twisted up like someone who had run out of time. She sat on the bench beyond the fence line, where the dust never settled. The road here was always thirsty. Tractors rolled by. Trucks grumbled. Grit hung in the light. Evan Cole kept walking. He had a schedule. He also had an empty wallet. Paper thin. Bones and hinge. A reminder that overtime was a promise and not a fact. His boots left short, sharp prints. He told himself not to look at her again. He looked anyway. The woman was turning a small watch over in her hands. Its glass was cracked in a spider of lines. It didn't tick. He could feel it from a dozen paces, a silence that wasn't lazy, a silence that remembered something. "Ma'am," he said through the fence, "this is restricted past the sign." She glanced up. Calm eyes, the kind that weigh and sort. "I know," she said. "Do you need a ride?" He hated how earnest he sounded. He was off shift. His car needed gas. He needed a miracle. But she looked like someone's aunt waiting for someone else's bus. "I need the truth," she said. "But a ride would be useful." He blinked. Her voice didn't match the clothes. It had edges. It knew where to end a sentence. "Truth about what?" "About who is stealing from your base," she said. "And why they think no one will notice." He stared. Dust hissed along the curb. He had seen missing inventory before. Loose bolts. Vanishing boxes of parts that had paperwork with all the right stamps. But he had learned the art of shrugging. You shrug to keep your job. You shrug because your wallet is empty and the rent isn't. "I don't know anything," he said. "Good," she said. She turned the broken watch in her fingers again. The face caught the sun. The second hand was bent like a hook. He realized then that the bench sat past the posted sign. He also realized she didn't care. "Ma'am," he repeated softer. "You can't sit there," she smiled. "Then stop me. It wasn't a dare. It was a test in a paper cup." He felt his mouth go dry. He stepped through the turnstile. A guard raised a hand, then dropped it when he saw Evan's badge. "Ma'am," Evan said, stopping a respectful distance from the bench. "I'm Petty Officer Cole. If you'll walk with me to the visitor lot, I'll make sure you're safe." "Am I unsafe?" she asked. "Not if you're authorized." "And if I'm not?" He swallowed. "Then you shouldn't be here." "Is that what you'll write down?" she asked. "That a woman with a broken watch was where she shouldn't be?" "Policy is policy," he said, hating the sentence as the air left it. She studied him. Not his face. Not his uniform. His stance. Where he set his weight. Where he hid his fear. "Policy is a door," she said. "Courage is a key." She stood. She was taller than he had guessed. "Walk me to your car, Petty Officer. Then tell me what you've noticed and haven't allowed yourself to say out loud." He took a breath. The dust tasted like pennies. "My car's this way," he said. They made it 10 steps. A black SUV rolled up, heavy tires whispering. The driver's window slid down. The base police chief leaned over from the passenger seat. He saw the woman. He saw Evan. He went pale. "Admiral Watson," he said. "Ma'am, we've been looking." Evan felt the dusty road vanish under his feet. "Admiral?" The woman closed her palm over the broken watch and turned to him as the SUV door opened. "Now?" she said quietly. "We can talk." The back door clicked. A hand gestured for her to enter. She did not move. She looked at Evan instead and said, "Get in with me." The base police chief stiffened. Someone in the front whispered into a radio. Evan's ribs tightened. "Petty Officer," the chief said. "That's an order from—" The Admiral finally stepped forward, but not into the SUV, into the road. Another SUV drifted around the corner unmarked, slowing. "Windows dark. Choose," she told Evan. "Now." And the unmarked SUV door began to open. He chose the unknown. Not the badge. Not the command chain he trusted when it suited him and feared when it didn't. He followed her toward the unmarked SUV. The door swung wider. The inside was plain. 2 seats. A folder on the floor. No smell of leather, no gloss. "Just purpose, ma'am." The chief called from the first SUV, voice tight. "We have your schedule." "Schedules are polite lies," she said without looking back. She slid into the rear seat. "Petty Officer Cole?" He climbed in. The door shut. The outside noise turned to a hum. The driver wore a simple cap. His face held the unbothered look of a man who knew 3 exits to every room. No insignia. No questions, I'm Mia Watson, she said. Since you won't sleep until I say it out loud, yes, Admiral. He couldn't find words. She set the broken watch on her knee. It was older than he'd guessed up close. The crystal had been replaced once badly. The case was scratched by sand or maybe a childhood that had used more tools than toys. Your wallet is empty, she said. Heat climbed his neck. Excuse me? You checked it twice before you spoke to me. People check what owns them. It owns you. That makes you useful to the people who are stealing from us. It also makes you dangerous to them if you choose the other side. He made himself breathe. I haven't taken a thing. I believe you, she said. That's why you stopped a stranger on a dusty road. You were afraid to and you did it anyway. He wanted to argue. He wanted to say he had only followed procedure. That his fear was a private thing and none of it was noble. But the words fell apart under the weight of the watch ticking in his eyes, though it made no sound. What do you want from me, Admiral? Not a confession, she said. A witness. To what? To a pattern that doesn't fit. She nodded to the folder on the floor. He picked it up. Inside were receipts from repair yards, log extracts, shift rosters, and then a photo of a pallet wrapped in black film. The film was slit like it had been opened by a cautious knife. What am I looking at? Parts that should be obsolete, she said. Parts that suddenly have buyers. Parts we only use at one pier. Pieces of quiet things that go down and don't come up without permission. He understood. Submarine parts. He tasted grit again. Who else knows? Everyone who should have acted, she said. And one person who did. Who? You, she said. When you stopped me, he almost laughed. Stopping a stranger is not the same as stopping a theft ring. It is the same seed, she said. Now we water it. He turned a page. A maintenance log. Times that did not line up. 2 signatures that were too clean. A stamp used one day before it was reissued to a different office. He felt the shape of it like a bruise under paper. Why me? He asked. You have investigators. I have mirrors, she said. They show me what I project. I need a window. Someone who isn't trying to impress me or protect me. Someone who counts his cash and counts the steps to the bus because gas is a luxury. He stared at her. It should have stung. It didn't. It felt like a hand on the table, palm up, asking, What does your watch mean? He asked, surprising himself. She looked down. A promise, she said. And a failure. She did not explain. She didn't have to. He had a few of those too. They drove off the base. The driver took side streets as if the main roads were too loud. The town unspooled. Pawn shops. A shuttered diner. A boy on a bike throwing soda caps at a sign because it was there. We'll start at the yard, she said. The one that cleans what the ocean leaves behind. Shipbreakers, he said. Yes. She took the watch and put it in her pocket. If something old is being born again, they'll have the afterbirth. The driver parked in a lot of crushed shells. The dust here was not dust. It was memory ground down to powder. Men with tanned faces and quiet eyes looked up. A foreman walked over. His smile had the slow care of a person who carried his smile like a loaded pallet. Can I help you? Evan let the Admiral do the talking. She didn't show credentials. She asked about scrap lots, about recent buyers with cash and no questions, about pallets that felt heavier than their labels said. The foreman's smile had patience. Then it had fatigue. Then it had fear. He scratched his jaw. Looked at the ground. A man came last week, he said. Paid in cash. Good bills. He wanted old boxes from a decommissioned sonar suite. Said he was building a museum. Men say that when they're building something else. Name? She asked. The foreman hesitated. His eyes slid to Evan, calculating. Cole, he said. Said his name was Cole. Evan's mouth went dry. The Admiral didn't look at him. Not yet. What first name? She asked. The foreman shook his head. He just said Cole, same eyes as him. He tipped his chin at Evan. But older. My brother, Evan whispered before he could stop himself. Nate, Nathan Cole, the foreman said, slow now. That sounds right. Nate had been dead 3 years. The foreman put a hand on the bench behind him as if the ground had tilted. You okay, son? Evan's empty wallet felt like a hole with edges too sharp to hold. The Admiral finally turned and met his eyes. We need to see that bill of sale, she said. The foreman nodded and walked toward the office. Evan watched him go, then looked at the Admiral. My brother is dead, he said. He didn't buy anything. I know, she said. Then who used his name? She didn't answer. She stepped past him toward the office door, voice low and hard, the dusty yard quiet around them. Whoever wants you to take the fall, she said. A forklift backfired. A gull screamed. The office door swung open, and the foreman came back holding a paper with a signature Evan recognized as his brother's, dated last week. He knew the signature. Nate had a habit of dragging the cross of his T like he was towing a rope. There it was, neat, fresh ink. Evan's stomach rolled. Could be forged, the foreman said, reading Evan's face like a weather chart. Looks clean. Maybe too clean? The Admiral took the page, held it up to the light. The paper glowed thin. Printer toner in the cross, she murmured. Signature was likely scanned and laid over text. She handed it back. Who took payment? Guy in a gray cap, the foreman said. Quiet, hands like a student, not a laborer. Cameras? Evan asked. The foreman laughed once. Out here the sun is the camera. He tapped his temple. I remember faces. Not hats, the Admiral nodded. We'll need all invoices for the last 2 months, especially under cash accounts for museum, display, or training. While the foreman went to fetch them, Evan stepped into the wind. The yard smelled of rust and old tide. The dusty road beyond the fence curled toward town like a thought you didn't want but kept having. He remembered Nate. Loud laugh. Soft pockets, a talent for fixing what most men replaced. This wasn't his handwriting. It was his hand copied by a patient thief. Evan felt the rage rise and then settle, heavy like a ship that had just tied up. The Admiral stood beside him without speaking. She opened her palm. The broken watch lay there again. My father wore this on a night we ran out of time, she said. We pulled survivors from a hull that had swallowed fire. We did not pull everyone. My father gave me this watch after. He said, let it keep the time we owe. What time is that? Evan asked, voice rough. More than we have, she said. But we pay in parts. The foreman returned with a cardboard file box. He set it on a spool table. This is it, he said. You can read it here. Nothing leaves. Fair, she said. She flipped. Evan leaned in. Receipts. Names that felt fake in the mouth. Then a note in pencil on a sticky tab. Deliver to Slip K after hours. Slip K was at the old pier. The one with the rotten steps where teens dared each other to jump at midnight. Not a Navy slip. A municipal secret that everyone knew. The Admiral's driver, who had said nothing so far, was suddenly on the phone. Short words. Shorter answers. Evan's phone buzzed in his pocket. Hey Evan, this you? The text read, and then a photo. A blurry angle of a man in a gray cap signing the foreman's desk book. The shoulders did look like Evan's. A twin born of bad light and motives. He felt the ground tilt again. They're building a U, the Admiral said quietly. Piece by piece. To hide inside of, he said. To bury you with, she said. They drove to Slip K. The dusty road spat stones at the tires like it wanted the car to stop and walk. The pier smelled of creosote and old promises. Boards creaked. The water below said soft, cruel things to the pilings. A blue container sat on the deck like a square storm. No markings. A single lock, crowbar, the driver said almost to himself. He pulled one from the trunk with the bored grace of practice. They pried. The door swung. Air heavy with oil and plastic rolled out. Inside were crates stamped with alphanumerics that could mean anything. Or everything. The Admiral did not touch. She read. Acoustic isolation mounts, she said. Propulsor shroud segments. All old model numbers. All suddenly popular. Evan leaned in. On the floor under a broken pallet slat, a phone lay face down. He picked it up. It was hot from the sun. Battery clinging to 2%. The lock screen had a wallpaper of a beach he had known as a child. He thumbed it and his heart stuttered. The phone opened. It was his last year's model, the one he had sold for rent. A number glowed in the message bar. Nate, got it. Slip K midnight. Bring cash. The Admiral looked at the screen with a stillness that could steady a ship. Someone is sewing with your thread, petty officer. The phone buzzed again. A new message wrote itself in green, unknown. Change of plan, daylight now. The driver's head snapped up. Movement, he said. 2 trucks. Evan peered past the container. Dust rose at the end of the pier road. Close it, the Admiral said, voice low. They shoved the door and shot the lock back as if that could hide the smell of stolen intent. The trucks rolled onto the pier. Not municipal. Not base, not marked. 2 men per cab. 2 more in the beds. Stances that said payday. The Admiral turned the broken watch on her wrist as if it had ever worked. As if it could count down the seconds to something kinder. "Follow my lead," she said. The first truck stopped. A man hopped down, jaw set, eyes lazy. The kind of lazy that means alert. He spotted Evan and smirked. "Cole, you're early." Evan felt the Admiral's presence beside him like a railing in a storm. "Plans changed," he said, hearing his own voice from a distance. "They did," the man agreed. He glanced past Evan. "Where's your—" He saw the Admiral's face. The smirk tried to keep up and failed. It was like watching a mask remember it was made of paper. "Evening," she said. The man swallowed. "Do I know you?" "You will," she said. "If you don't already." He shifted, hand sliding near his belt. The driver coughed once, the sound a quiet bar across the staff lines of the scene. "Let's keep hands where hands are friendly," the Admiral said. "Show me your bill of lading." "Show me yours," the man said, brave in a way that meant someone had told him he was protected. She smiled then. It wasn't warm. It wasn't cruel. It was exact. "Of course," she said. She reached into her pocket and brought out a small flat case. Inside, a card with a crest that had floated over oceans since before either of them had learned to stand. The man read, didn't read, read again. His partner in the truck bed breathed a word that sounded like prayer and warning both. "Admiral." A gull winged past. "Laughing because gulls laugh at everything. Hands." She repeated. They lifted their palms. "Keys," she said. One keyring slid across the deck and tapped the Admiral's shoe. A radio crackled in someone's pocket. A voice said, "Change of plan. Take the merchandise and the decoy. Kill the watch." The man's eyes flicked to Evan. "The decoy," he said softly. He reached for his belt anyway. The driver's hand moved like a thought. The man's radio flew into the water. But from the second truck, a muzzle flashed. The broken watch in the Admiral's hand caught a tiny spark of light. And the world split into sound. Silence after gunfire isn't silence. It's a ledger. It lists what you still have. It lists what you no longer do. "Down," the driver snapped. Evan drove his shoulder into the deck. The Admiral folded beside him with a clean economy that said she had been here before. The second shot barked. It hit the container and rang like a bell no one wanted. "Stop," the first man yelled at his partner. His voice had notes of panic and payroll. "Are you insane?" The Admiral lifted her head just enough to see. "They're jumpy," she whispered. Jumpy means sloppy. She looked at the broken watch in her palm. A hairline crack had widened. She closed her fingers around it like she could keep time from leaking out. Sirens began in the far distance, too far to help, close enough to hurry decisions. "Petty officer," she said. "You know the pier. How do we cut them off without bullets?" He scanned the layout. Stairs down to the pilings. Netting on hooks. The old trawler tied at the far end with a rope that looked like it would take a suggestion if phrased correctly. "Release the trawler," he said. "Use the wake." The driver moved without waiting for permission. He wasn't a man who suffered from extra seconds. Evan sprinted low to the cleat and worried the rope free. The trawler drifted, then tugged hard. Its stern swung like a gate. The water answered with muscle. The 2 trucks jerked as the planks beneath them flexed. "Back!" the first man shouted. "Back!" The second man didn't listen. He climbed, pointed, shouted. The Admiral stood, and her voice cut through heat and dust. Enough, it wasn't loud. It was final. "You don't argue with an ending." The second man hesitated. Not fear, recognition, he knew that tone. He had once had a chief who used it when fire tried very hard to be bigger than the ship. "Keys," she said again. He tossed them. His jaw went sideways like he had bitten something sour and didn't want to share. Sirens grew teeth. "On your knees," the driver said. Palms flat, they obeyed. Not out of respect. Out of math, Evan scooped the tossed keys. A fob with a cracked seal. A trinket from a gas station at the edge of a dusty road. A second fob, cheap, with a sticker that read Twy. "Ty?" he asked the first man. The man refused to see the sticker. "Don't know him." "Typhoon," the Admiral murmured. The word changed the air. She looked at the phone in Evan's hand. The last text. Change of plan, daylight now. She tapped the number. It rang to a dead voicemail that did not invite messages. She handed the phone back. Keep it, she said. It's your ghost. The police arrived. Lights, posture, questions. The Admiral flashed credentials once, and the questions rearranged themselves into cooperation. The trucks were impounded. The container was sealed. The men were cuffed and loaded. At the edge of the scene, a plain sedan idled. A thick-necked man in a base polo watched with the mild interest of a person reading a menu he had already memorized. Evan felt the hair on his neck lift. Him, he said quietly to the Admiral. Chief Barron, her face did not change. The broken watch did not tick. Your mentor? She asked. He taught me to keep a log so clean it could be eaten off, Evan said. He taught me that the difference between courage and foolishness is how well you can explain it in writing. He also taught someone to forge your brother's hand, she said. Barron's eyes drifted to them. He smiled, a neat smile. The kind that fit in a pocket. The Admiral stepped toward him. Chief, she said,